Good morning. I'm Dennis Gingrich, although a lot of patients, residents, and students call me Dr. G, and you're welcome to think of me that way this morning. What defines the relationship between family doctors and patients? And more to the point of my story, have you had such a relationship that lasted through your whole life? And have you had such a relationship that was the first such relationship in your life? Tom Lehman was my family doctor when I was growing up in little town of Hershey, Pennsylvania. And Tom Lehman delivered me, hence, he was my very first relationship. Now, I don't actually remember that event occurring, but a mother reliably told me that that was true, and we found in the family archives his bill for professional services rendered for delivery and all professional services for mother and newborn, totaling $50. Tom was my family doctor. He was a wonderful family doctor. He was thoughtful, friendly, open, wise, a good listener. And I could talk with him about just about anything, even things, especially as a teenager, that I had trouble talking with my parents about. He was my family doctor. Do any of you remember or perhaps have seen reruns of Marcus Welby, which was a television show, dare I say, dating back to the 70s that I remember? It was the medical show when I was in medical school, and it was about a family doctor. This was Tom Lehman's home, and of course, the office was attached to the side of the home. And he reminded me exactly of Marcus Welby in his manner, in the nature of the interactions, in the nature of the office. And in fact, in small town Hershey, my family lived 2 blocks away, and I could simply walk from my home to his office in his home. It felt like just a part of the neighborhood. I put a couple of slides in here right now, even though they weren't how I saw Tom at the time, because I learned more about Tom in a sort of layered way as the years went by. And I'd like to thank the Lehman family for opening up all of their albums for me to use for this talk. If you see any captions, those were inserted by the family. So here's another look at the Tom Lehman that I love because of his unassuming sense of humor and zest for life. At the beginning of his career, at the beginning of family medicine, and Tom in action, very diverse patient population, large scope of practice. Tom was my family doctor. I saw the whole healthcare system through him. In fact, I didn't even really think of the healthcare system except through him. I think my only other contact was when a surgeon took my tonsils out when I was very young, but otherwise, my family doctor, Tom Lehman, was the healthcare system for me. Then there was a new development in the little town of Hershey, Pennsylvania. Big news in the late 60s. Penn State was going to build a new medical school in our little town. Wow, big change, and a hospital too. So I started thinking, wow. I was already thinking about a career in medicine, and I thought maybe I could attend school here. And then there were a few other developments that expanded Tom's role in my life that I wasn't quite aware of at the time, because the new dean, who was brought up from the University of Florida, where he was dean, decided at that time in the late 60s that he wanted to experiment with a new kind of department at Penn State, a department of family medicine. But there were no other departments of academic family medicine to choose faculty from. So he decided that he was going to talk to the GPs who were at that time trained with 1 year of residency in town, including Tom, and to see if any of them might want to join the faculty of this new medical school with this crazy new department. So the stipulations that he made were they would need to accept an academic salary, their patient population would become the nidus of the university patient population, and they would need to achieve an additional year of residency equivalent training at their own expense. So he talked to all the GPs in town, and guess which one stepped forward and said, "That sounds like a wonderful adventure. Let me apply for it and see if you would accept me on faculty, and let's try it out." And of course, that was my family doctor, Tom Lehman. I might also add that that created an adventure for me and his patients as well that I didn't fully appreciate at the time, because when he was offered and accepted the position as the first chair of the first academic department of family medicine, his patients, including me, became the first patients in an academic family medicine department practice. So he inadvertently, for me, as I didn't realize until later, created a brand new historical adventure for me, and my entry into family medicine was as a patient. At that point, another thought occurred to me as the facets of our relationship started to expand, that my family doctor, Tom, was now an academic faculty at a medical school, and I could probably ask him more specific questions about what a career in family medicine was like, how to get into medical school, and those type of questions, which I did. So I peppered him with questions over the next few years. What's medicine like? How do I get into medical school? And then when I was a medical student at Penn State Hershey, so tell me what family medicine is like. I kind of get it as a patient, but what are the other things you do? And then ultimately, what residencies you think I should apply to? So he now became, my family doctor now became my academic mentor as well, in a sort of a seamless expansion of our role. And I think I should perhaps mention at this time that as our roles morphed over the years, he was a wonderful role model for me, and I just watched what he was doing and then tried to do the same thing. And I think I should tell you that 2 of the students in the first year class at Penn State Hershey now grew up in my practice as my patients as well. So after I graduated from Penn State Hershey, I did my residency right here in Pittsburgh at UPMC Shadyside, and then went off to an adventure in California working with Kaiser Permanente for a while. While I was out of town, Tom and I were certainly not out of mind, and Tom was actually expanding some of his roles in service as well. So I think I should touch on that aspect of my family doctor as well. He and his wife Jean went to Uganda as part of their church mission effort to provide additional care and resources to AIDS patients there. It was a pandemic at that time in Uganda, and they provided encouragement, they provided support, they provided resources, and in an ongoing way, even after they returned to the States, they were exchanging letters and providing additional funding for the effort there. He also, again through his church in Harrisburg, worked to support an inner-city medical mission that the church offered as well. And this is one scene of Tom in action in Harrisburg and the impact that my family doctor was making on urban health care as well. After a few years in California And especially after my grandfather passed away, I decided maybe I should be closer to family. Maybe I should return to the little town, which was not quite so little now, of Hershey, Pennsylvania. So what was my next step? I called my family doctor, my academic mentor, Tom, and said, "Tom, do you have a job for me?" So Tom became my boss. An interesting expansion of roles, family physician, academic mentor, and boss rolled into one. And the reason that I'm showing this cup, which was sort of made as a joyous memorial, is that Tom delivered me and then hired me onto faculty, and he also delivered my colleague, Dr. Donna Testa, when she was a patient in his practice, and hired her into faculty as well. So he was in the unique position of not once but twice showing true prescience in long-term faculty development. So Tom, as my family doctor once and always, my academic mentor, my boss, and additional roles that were accumulating, was wonderful because he matched department needs with what my needs would be, just as we match resources and opportunities with patient needs. It was just a seamless transition in the way we were working together. So he actually hired me to teach obstetrics to residents, but I soon became interested in geriatrics as well, although it was always a challenge to try to see where those two fields intersected. But he encouraged me in my geriatrics interest and advised me that there was an exam for special qualifications that was coming up, and why don't I just work as the geriatric education coordinator for the residency as well. And then at one time he told me, the dean stopped by and suggested that we develop a student health service for the College of Medicine, which didn't exist at that time. And he said, we should do it in our department. He said, would you like to be director? And I thought that would be a great adventure, so I said yes, and it was. And then in the twilight of his time as chair of the department, before the new chair came in, he said, you know what, would you like a little experience before I retire as associate chair to just give you some administrative experience and see how that works? So it was a time of opportunities, the same kind of opportunities that we try to offer patients as we go through our relationships with them. There came a time when Tom came to me and he asked me a question that really surprised me. He said, Dennis, would you be my family doctor? And that really kind of floored me. I hadn't seen that coming, and I thought, wow, how is this exactly going to work? You can't say no to a question like that, of course. But the next thought, of course, is how am I going to measure up to this? But you know, he made it so easy because and then it came to me because I thought all I have to do is to try to do for him the same things that he's been doing for me. I can just watch the role modeling and just play it back. And so that's what I tried to do. I tried to be thoughtful and friendly and open and wise and a good listener. And you know what? Tom was a great patient too, because he continued to be thoughtful and friendly and open and wise and a good listener for me as well. And you know, in contrast to most of us as patients, he actually cooperated with wonderful adherence as well. But now think about this. So in these roles, was I a family doctor or was I a patient? And was Tom a family doctor or was he a patient? And the answer, of course, is yes. Because if you think about it, in the seamless roles that we share with each other, all of us who are family physicians in training or allied in health delivery with family physicians, we are also patients. And we see it from both sides. We shared a few other events over the course of time as well that made our relationship even more special in the integrated way this played out with family medicine. I attended the STFM meeting in which Tom was elected president of STFM, and he attended the Pennsylvania Academy of Family Physicians meeting in which I was inaugurated as president of that organization. So we had a chance to share many other meaningful adventures. So back to what defines the family doctor and patient relationship. Well, I think it's really defined by the relationship itself. And I think it's defined by all the things that come from the relationship. I think it's defined by dedication. I think it's defined by a caring heart. I think it's defined by good listening. I think it's defined by trust. And I think it's defined by openness to allowing the relationship to achieve its true destiny. There are a couple of other slides that I just wanted to show here. This is Tom and Jean Lehman and their family at a time when he established a faculty position, funding for a faculty position in the name of the family, and they also, along with the Wiest family, established scholarships as well. So true giving back. My family doctor never stopped giving back to the community around him. This is a meaningful shot for the children because one of their daughters used to say this all the time. And so they sort of adopted it as a family motto, and I think that's just so Tom. And this is so Tom also. My family doctor, who also was my academic mentor, who also was my boss, who also was my patient, who also was my lifelong friend, passed away last month. I wonder if you would indulge me in just a moment of silent reflection on what I've just shared and the memory of this great man. Thank you. And my final thoughts are, how would Tom want to conclude a talk like this? And I'm thinking back to his funeral, and he was very specific about some of the things that he wanted in his funeral, which his family followed. It was a packed church, of course. It took 2 priests rather than 1 to handle the whole service. There were great reflections, great memories, great stories, great music. But the defining moment was so like the way Tom looked at life, the way he shared life with patients, including me, colleagues, including me, and family doctors, including me, and his community. He asked that all of the attendees at the funeral be escorted outside of the church, where we met a trumpeter. The trumpeter started playing When the Saints Go Marching In and led us to the reception. That is so Tom. Even in death, Tom always wanted all those around him to celebrate life. And I think that's the way he would want this to end today. So let us celebrate family physicians and patients who together can create possibilities where possibilities did not exist, who can create health where health did not exist, who can create hope where hope did not exist. Because that is really the promise of the relationship between family doctors and patients. And it's that promise that unifies our past with our present, with our future together. Thank you.